learning, a system architecture is born, inspired by the neural networks of the brain. Weights and layers igniting the hidden chains. Forward and back propagation, a powerful refrain. Intrusion detection on a global scale. Doctors see its class will never fail.
Welcome, everyone. Before we dive into the fascinating world of deep learning for security, let's set the stage. This course is all about neural networks and how they can be a powerful tool to catch intruders and keep our systems safe. Think of deep learning as giving our computers a sixth sense for spotting danger. Ready to unlock this power? Let's go. Deep learning isn't just one algorithm. It's a system architecture, much like a giant interconnected city of computing units called deep neural networks, or DNNs. Its philosophy is inspired by your own brain. It's all about parallel computation, where many things happen at once, unlike a single-lane road of sequential computing. This parallel power is what lets it learn complex things so quickly. It's less about a recipe and more about a whole kitchen design. Let's take a quick trip through time. Our journey started small in 1943 with the first neuron model. Things got really exciting in 1986 with backpropagation, which taught networks how to correct their own errors. But the real boom happened in 2012 when a network called AlexNet crushed the competition in image recognition. That moment was the equivalent of the rocket launch for deep learning. It proved this tech was ready for prime time. Deep learning is already everywhere, often invisibly. Take face recognition. From unlocking your phone to airport security, it uses powerful deep learning models to distinguish one face from billions. It's analyzing shapes, shadows, and contours far faster than any human. Only think about a time you used face recognition today. That's deep learning in action. Deep learning has the potential to save lives. In healthcare, it's a game changer. Imagine a system that can scan an X-ray or MRI much faster than a human and spot a tiny anomaly that could be a sign of disease. This is used for everything from drug discovery to personalized treatment plans. It's like giving doctors a powerful diagnostic co-pilot. Now we get to the basic unit of deep learning, the artificial neuron. Just like your brain has nerve cells, our networks have these simple processing units. They're built on the same idea. Take inputs, weigh them based on importance, and then decide what output to pass on. It's a simple concept that, when combined with millions of others, creates mind-blowing intelligence. This slide outlines the vocabulary of deep learning. We have neurons with their activation functions, the on-off switch, arranged in layers. We have weights and biases that are constantly adjusted during propagation. And then there are hyperparameters, which are the master controls you tune to make the network learn better. We'll break each of these down, so don't feel overwhelmed. An artificial neural network, ANN, is essentially a machine learning model inspired by the brain. Its knowledge isn't written in a rulebook. It's stored in the connection strengths, or weights, between neurons. The cool part is how it learns. It constantly adjusts these weights based on training examples until it gets the task right. It's truly a system that learns by doing. Meet the perceptron, the granddaddy of all artificial neurons. It's the simplest model. Just like a brain neuron, it takes multiple inputs, checks how important each one is, the weights, adds them up, and then decides whether to fire an output signal. Think of it as a tiny decision maker. It's the essential building block of every complex network. A simple ANN has a hidden layers sandwiched between the input and output layers. The magic in each neuron of this network is a three-step dance. 1, it sums the weighted inputs. 2, it adds a bias, a little nudge. And 3, it applies an activation function to decide the final output. The hidden layer is crucial because it allows the network to find and understand patterns that are too complex for a single neuron. I've added a link here to a great external resource for your self-study. It's always a good idea to see these concepts explained in different ways. You can check out this slide share after our session for an alternative perspective on prediction models. How do we train these neurons? It's a cycle of 3 steps. Training is not a single event. It's a patient, iterative process of trial and error. Every time the network sees data, it gets a tiny bit smarter. It's all about refinement. Forward propagation, the data goes through the network to compute an output. Backpropagation, the network checks its output against the correct answer and calculates the error. Optimization, it uses a method called gradient descent to slowly adjust the weights to reduce that error. Let's focus on the learning rate again. Think of it as taking steps toward the minimum of a valley, our lowest error. If your steps are too small, small learning rate, you'll take forever to get there. If your steps are too large, large learning rate, you'll just bounce around the sides of the valley, or maybe even step right out of it. The learning rate is critical for smooth, fast, and stable learning. Gradient descent is the engine of training, and it has a few different styles. There's the basic approach, and then variations like stochastic gradient descent, SGD, and mini-batch gradient descent. The key difference is how much data the network looks at before it takes a step. This slide is a placeholder for us to explore these variations in more detail. Let's zoom in on the bias in a neuron. Think of the bias as the neuron's default setting or its initial willingness to activate. Weights and bias are just numbers initialized randomly, and the training process adjusts both. Weights and bias, along with the activation function, define the unique character of each neuron. Mathematically, the bias is simple. It shifts the result of the weighted input, U, to create a new value, V. This allows the neuron to perform a linear transformation on the input. This little shift is surprisingly powerful because it lets the network model lines that don't pass through the origin, which is necessary for solving most real-world problems. The magic of a neural network really boils down to 2 numbers, the weights and the bias. They are completely adjustable, and they are what define the output of your perceptron for any given input. The method of calculating and adjusting them is what we call training, a process that relies heavily on forward and backward propagation, which we will cover in a moment. The activation function is the neuron's all-important switch. It looks at the processed input and decides whether the signal is strong enough to pass on to the next layer. Crucially, it introduces nonlinearity. Without it, your powerful neural network would be no smarter than a simple linear regression model. We use functions like the logistic function to map the input to a manageable output, often between 0 and 1. Neural networks organize perceptrons into layers. We have the input layer, the entry point where no math happens, it just passes features. The hidden layers, where the bulk of the computation and feature extraction takes place. And the output layer, the final layer that delivers the network's final answer, whether it's a classification or a prediction. The hidden layer is the heart of a deep neural network, DNN. This is where the network teaches itself the most important features in the data. We don't have to tell it what to look for. It discovers the features. As inputs are fed through, the weights are adjusted, and the network creates a powerful, interconnected web of complex functions. This is why DNNs are so effective. This is a great place to check out this website for more information. The core idea here is that deep learning methods build a feature hierarchy. The first layers learn simple things like edges and corners, and subsequent layers combine those simple features to recognize more complex things like a nose, then a face. It builds knowledge like a pyramid. While all hidden layers usually use the same activation function, like ReLU, which we'll discuss, the output layer is special. It uses a function that is specifically chosen for the problem you are solving. For example, if you are doing a simple yes-no classification, you use a sigmoid. If you are choosing between many options, you use softmax. The choice depends entirely on your model's goal. This slide visually represents the leap from a single neuron to an entire network. It's the difference between a single light switch and a massive server farm. By connecting many simple units, we create a powerful system capable of modeling nonlinear, real-world complexity that a single neuron could never handle. The power of layering. A single neuron can only draw a straight line, a linear boundary, to separate data. But by layering neurons, a network can model complex, curved, and non-linear decision boundaries. This is why a neural network can solve problems that a single perceptron would fail at. It handles the complexity of the real world. The multi-layer perceptron, MLP, is the classic design. It's defined by its layers of neurons and the use of activation functions to model complex relationships. It's the standard baseline architecture, and it's particularly effective for multi-class classification problems, like telling the difference between a cat, a dog, and a bird in a picture. Here are the big three activation functions. ReLU, rectified linear unit, is primarily used in hidden layers because it is computationally efficient. Sigmoid is often used in the output layer for binary classification, yes, no. Softmax is used in the output layer for multi-class classification, choosing from many options, the right tool for the right job. A note on some older functions. Sigmoid and tan can be used in hidden layers, but they come with a potential problem called the vanishing gradient, which makes deep networks very hard to train. I've included some great links here for you to read up on this phenomenon, including code examples and good definitions. This is a great self-study topic. This slide marks our transition into the detailed mechanics of training. We know it's an iterative process, but how exactly does the network correct its errors? It's all about propagation, the topic of our next few slides. Remember our three-step training cycle? Forward propagation gets an output. Backpropagation computes the error and gradients, and optimization uses gradient descent to update weights. We're going to look at those two propagations closely. Get ready for the core learning mechanism of the network. Backpropagation is the genius of neural networks. It's how the network learns. After forward propagation gives an output, backpropagation works backward from the output layer to the input layer. It figures out how much each weight contributed to the final error, and then uses gradient descent to adjust the weights to reduce that error. It's a continuous, iterative cycle of self-correction. Forward propagation is the data moving forward through the network. The output of one layer's activation function becomes the input for the next layer. It's a smooth, sequential flow from the input features to the final prediction. Each layer adds a little more complexity, extracting increasingly detailed features as the data moves along. The moment of truth in training. You compare the network's final output with the expected output. The difference is the error. That error is then fed back through the network layer by layer. This is the start of backpropagation, the process of adjusting every weight in the system to minimize that difference. In this diagram, the green dot represents the delta, or the calculated difference between what we got and what we wanted. This delta is passed backward to the previous layer. It's like a whisper of error information traveling backward, telling each layer, hey, you messed up this much, adjust your weights accordingly. The delta whispers become powerful instructions. The value passed back is used to calculate the required adjustment for the weights in that layer. The ultimate goal of backpropagation is simple. Adjust the network's weights and biases to minimize the overall cost function, which is just a measure of how wrong the network is. It's all about finding the perfect set of weights. Let's return to the master controls, hyperparameters. The whole training process is iterative, with one full pass through the data called an epoch. Hyperparameters for forward propagation include the weights, biases, and activation function. But for backward propagation, the key hyperparameter is the optimization function, which often has its own controls like the learning rate and momentum. Deep learning has a powerful family of architectures, each a specialist in its domain. MLP is the baseline, a general purpose fighter. CNNs are the vision specialists perfect for images. LSTMs, a type of RNN, are the memory keepers, great for time series and speech. GANs are the artists, using two competing networks to generate new data. AEs are the detectives, learning to compress data and spot anomalies. Knowing which one to use is the mark of an expert. This is where it gets highly relevant to our course title. Each architecture has a critical application in cybersecurity. CNNs are fantastic for detecting subtle patterns in data, making them ideal for malware detection. LSTMs excel at understanding sequences, making them perfect for log file analysis and spotting unusual behavior over time. GANs are used to test and challenge our defenses by subverting intelligent controls. AEs are the best for unsupervised anomaly detection, finding things that are weird without knowing what weird looks like beforehand. Take a moment to think about the most surprising thing you learned about deep learning today. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and you've just mastered the steps of the neural network. Great job, and I look forward to our next discussion.